Hey everybody. When it comes to building a brand new computer from scratch, probably the last thing people may think of sometimes, particularly if you're building a high-end system, is to reuse a computer case from a pre-built system like an Acer or an HP or a Dell or one of those, especially a Dell. But there are actually some cases out there from pre-built machines that are actually pretty decent for building your own machines in. For example, if you look at a tech room computer, you can see that it's, of course, that's not a factory eMachines computer. That the case, of course, is an eMachines case, but of course, I did a custom build in it. One of my favorite cases of back in the day to build small machines out of was the eMachines towers from 2002 through 2006, that time period. Although the later ones, up until they got really cheap, those were pretty decent too. However, with eMachines chassis, you were limited to these faceplates and the very antique card reader that does not even support SDHC. That gives you an idea how old that is. So that you definitely have some limitations with that chassis if you're going to build a new machine in it today. However, that computer chassis was very custom builder friendly. The headers for like the power LED, the power LED, hard disk LED, power switch and such, those were very universal for the motherboards back then that did not actually line up with today's standard. Where there is a pretty standardized pinout for your front panel buttons and lights and such, but back in the day, motherboards didn't really conform to that standard. They were kind of all over the place back in around 2000, 2001, 2002, those years. They were kind of all over the place, but around, I'd say 2004, 2005, they standardized to a pretty common pinout. But anyways, the eMachines, the headers were very universal. And like, for example, you look at my fingers, think of this as your power switch, well, they didn't have a reset switch, but they had a power LED and hard disk LED all on separate wires, so we could easily, you could hook them up to about anything you wish. And of course, inside the motherboard tray was very decent to work with. Pretty much any micro ATX motherboard at the time would fit, and even new ones would fit. The power supply bay, which I have an eMachine sitting down here on the floor. That's the real filthy one, by the way. As you can see, the power supply bay is wide open, so you wouldn't have to worry about any sort of metal being in the way of, let's say, a power socket or a power switch or what have you. HPs were problematic with this back in the early 2000s. So eMachines chassis at that time were, I'd say, a very popular option if you were just wanting to reuse a case from a name brand computer. That and the fact that the eMachines computers of that day, the infamous Bestech ATX 25012E power supplies, were prone to failure, and when they failed, they took the motherboard with them. eMachines were a common candidate of getting retail motherboards and power supplies and stuff like that, and people were sometimes using them to make their own machines, and they were a good candidate for that. Now, another good candidate would be the HP compact desktop chassis from, say, 2007 through, I don't know, 2010, 2011, in that time period. Some of them, at least, primarily from 2007 through 2009. Now, unfortunately, I don't have one on hand to show you, but those were I'd say very universal as far as the power supply bay was, and they conformed to your standard ATX design. They had good ventilation. In fact, I really liked the way they were ventilated. The motherboards set upside down, so your CPU sat closer to the bottom of the system, and of course, as we all know, heat rises, so your CPU was getting cooled by cooler air in the bottom of the system. And the connectors on were pretty much the standard, and by that time, most, if not all, motherboards conformed to the standard pinout of your front panel headers. So those were very, very decent to work with. However, there is another case that I liked a lot, and I have it right here to show you. It was used by Acer, probably built by Acer. Just for an example, this particular model Acer is an Aspire M5100 from 2007. This case was used, I believe, from 2005 to 2008, sometime like that, I guess. Now, on the outside, you think, oh, it's just a plain Jane computer case. But you could really build you a sleeper out of this thing. Now, of course, when you think of sleepers, you're thinking of, you know, old cars or, you know, plain Jane-looking cars that are souped up to go real fast. But the term sleeper can be applied to computers as well. Let's say a computer that's in a plain Jane case that don't look all that special, but be packed with real high-end hardware, you know, something like that. So this particular chassis here, I'd say, is a prime candidate for even a brand new system. You have two 3.5-inch bays for, let's say, card readers and such. You have, behind these doors, two 5.25-inch drive bays for your optical drives. Now, if you were willing to use some sort of like 5.25-inch accessory, like a readout or, you know, whatnot, like a fan controller or whatnot, you wouldn't be able to do it here, but you could probably use this for it. However, this door here wouldn't work. So you have this door here that conceals all your drives. So even if you're even if you have to, when you're shopping for drives, if you're stuck with a option that's like beige or some weird color, it's not going to be very noticeable because of these doors. Now things get even better once we get inside the case. Now here I have these two USB ports covered up because the motherboard that I had in this machine at the time did not have enough headers. But you have 4 USB 2.0 headers, your mic and your audio jacks there. Now for getting USB 3.0, yeah, you would have to do some modifications because, of course, this case was made in 2007. Yeah, it's like the minitower Deluxe case, 2007. The power supply bay is nice and wide open, and as you can see, no issues at all with fitting many power supplies that you would want in there, at least the ones that are the PS2 size. And of course, here's where your motherboard I/O shield would be. Let's go and open this up and have a look inside. This is where things get very interesting. Now, the reason why I say this chassis here would be the ultimate pre-built system chassis to make a nice sleeper computer out of would be this right here. As I mentioned, you think, oh, this is some plain Jane Acer computer case. But when you look inside, you're going to be in for a surprise. Look at all the tool-free drive bays here. Now you tell me, how often is it do you see a minitower computer case with 4 hard drive bays in it? 4. Not very often, is it? Yes, this computer chassis offers, this minitower chassis offers 4 3.5-inch hard drive bays. So you could have up to 4 hard drives in this thing, along with your card reader and maybe another 3.5-inch accessory. You could perhaps put an SSD up here, but you know, most motherboards these days you'll be using M.2 SSD, so that's not too much of a problem there. The power supply that's in here is a factory power supply. It is, I think, a 250-watt supply. Nothing really special there, but you could always change that out for something better. But this chassis has lots of ventilation. You got the ventilation holes here. You have the humongous big vent on the side panel, so you would get some decent air in there to your components. You could probably fasten the fan to that if you wanted to get extra air in. You also have the vent on the front, which actually intake air from down here. So overall, it's, I'd say, pretty well ventilated case. Not the best out there, but I'd say even today's standard is pretty acceptable. The only thing you'll run into, however, is these Acers. The front panel header if I can find it, wherever the heck it's at, oh, it's down there, is these particular headers, they had an additional set of wires going on the side over here. And these actually, when I actually broke them off and actually tied them to the side with electrical tape. What these were was the Acers back then had your hard drive activity LED, but also a network activity LED. Yes, an Ethernet indicator on the front of your system, which I think is pretty cool. But unfortunately, most motherboards around don't actually have such an indicator. So now you could actually attach this the way it originally was. You could attach it to most motherboards, provided there was nothing over here sticking up. The motherboard I had in this machine had stuff right next to the front panel header, so I had to break this off. But other than that, it still conforms to your standard pinout of power LED here, hard drive LED here, power switch here, but this one does not have a reset. The reset would go there. So it conforms to, other than that, it conforms to the standard pinout. Now, in addition, what's really cool about this chassis is it has, here is a power connector that lights on the front of the system, which I think looks very cool. I'll go and tip it back up. But you would actually have lights down here that would light up a spire, which would be kind of funny. That would be really funny if you were willing to build like I mentioned, a sleeper computer. People would think you have some old Acer from like 2007, but truth be told, it's some high-end machine, which you have plenty of room for even the largest of the micro ATX motherboards. And this is, if you look carefully, you can see that it is pretty adaptable as far as the headers go. It is pretty adaptable. It's almost like it's a custom build chassis, really. And again, the tool-free drive bays, that's a very nice touch there. So, while this may not be the absolute best case out there to use, I think if you was wanting to make you a nice sleeper computer out of some pre-built system chassis, I think this will be your best candidate. This is why when I get one of these things, I have a hard time wanting to get rid of it because of just how expandable the thing is. I mean, think about it, the minitower Lux, or mini minitower cases. You can have 4 hard drives in them, 4 3.5-inch hard drives. Most minitower cases like this, you're usually restricted to 2 hard drives, such as say with the eMachine system. I have 2 hard drives in this. I had the primary hard drive and I had the imaging hard drive. So yeah, with most minitower systems like that, you're limited pretty severely as far as hard drive options go. So anyways, as I mentioned, an eMachine's tower like this, it's a pretty good option. It was actually a better option back in 2005, 2006, those days. But as technology moved forward and SDHC cards came out and things like that, it's not your best option. However, I still use it sometimes for like systems like this. The compact Presario and HP Pavilion cases from 2007 through 2009, that time period, most of them were very nice to build in. However, as I mentioned, that case right there, I think it's incredible. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody, I sure hope you guys enjoyed this video from Q Computer Channel. Remember to like the video, subscribe to Q Computer Channel for more updates, and remember to tick the bell so that you actually get notified of these updates. Did you know that I am also on a second channel that's CubeComp MTDX? Over there you'll find videos of bicycling, weather, elevators, and all sorts of other neat and interesting stuff. Feel free to subscribe to that channel as well. And again, I thank you for your support, and thanks for watching this video.